Behind every innovation is a truth. In order to dream big, you need a secure foundation. To advance the future of aviation while meeting the strictest compliance, you need a cloud you can trust. To redefine transportation, you need rigorous guardrails so you can move fast. And to connect people with life-changing treatments, you need powerful, scalable compute. You need cloud services that are mathematically proven to be more secure. At AWS, we start with security as the foundation for everything, so you can build anything.
Please welcome Chief Information Security Officer of AWS, Amy Herzog.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this year's re:Inforce. I'm so excited to see everyone and to join this conference for the first time as CISO. What I love about re:Inforce is that it focuses on the practical skills and strategies you need to drive secure cloud innovation. Over the next 2 days, you'll get to explore the latest tools and discover new ways to solve complex security challenges right alongside the architects who build our services. While I'm new to the AWS CISO role, my journey with AWS stretches a while back, and innovation and agility have been at the heart of all of it. I first heard of AWS at the very beginning, while I was at MITRE, helping government customers understand what this cloud thing was and how they should think about the security of it. After MITRE, AWS powered my startups, and it's not hyperbole to say they couldn't have existed without it. Like, secret, IT budgets are not super high on the list of startup priorities. These past 2+ years, I've been able to rely on AWS as an enterprise customer, just as many of you do. In fact, I've had the privilege of relying on AWS as multiple enterprise customers because I was the CISO for multiple businesses, from movie studios to consumer devices to our advertising business and beyond. The through line of all of my experiences with AWS is that all of you, our customers, drive our work. And we relentlessly innovate to meet your expectations and earn your trust. We know that security is at the heart of your expectations for us. Last year here, we spoke about our security culture and how it motivates and integrates into every team here at AWS. We've always been secure by design, defining industry-leading practices, technologies, and controls to help ensure robust security and data protection for your applications and your data. But our customer obsession, to use one of Amazon's leadership principles, doesn't stop there. We know that you're also continually looking for ways to get the strong security outcomes you need in a way that's easier and more scalable. Especially now, as you work to enable AI initiatives without compromising the security posture you've spent years building. The pace of change is not slowing down. Over the next few years, we're going to see rapid transformations, countless experiments, and this is how it goes, probably some spectacular failures along the way. Sometimes you can worry that AI feels a little bit like a rebellious intern who might just decide to redesign your entire database schema without you asking. But here's what I know to be true. We can't properly secure AI or any other technology, really, without a secure foundation. Today, I want to walk you through just a few of the ways we're making it easier for you to achieve that strong security foundation. We're going to cover a few different things: identity and access management, data and network security that actually scales for you, monitoring and incident response that keeps up with the pace of change, and how migrating to the cloud and modernizing your tech stack can give you a better security edge. Because at the end of the day, our job isn't to slow down innovation. It's to make sure that all of us can move even faster. Let's dive in. In modern systems, identity and access management aren't just part of the security story, they're foundational to everything you do. Identity is about trust. It's about being confident enough to say, we know who you are, and therefore we know what you can access. It's a really simple mental model, but the systems that we need to apply that mental model to are often pretty complicated. And as businesses grow, so does the system complexity supporting them. So to achieve the right identity and access management outcomes in practice, we need a system that can evolve and scale with our business. AWS Identity and Access Management was designed to address the complex needs of modern cloud authentication and authorization at a massive scale. In fact, AWS IAM handles 1.2 billion API calls per second worldwide. That means that 1.2 billion times per second, IAM is asked to determine if an API call should be permitted or denied. It's a little wild, right? Based on customer feedback and to provide you with the expressiveness and flexibility you need, we built a single, powerful policy language to power IAM. You can use it to control access to all of your resources, whether that's launching an EC2 instance, provisioning a database, or working with your favorite models in Amazon Bedrock. This policy language gives you the ability to write truly fine-grained permissions for your resources, applications, and users. And it's evolved over the years to address your particular authentication and authorization needs. When configuring these permissions, our goal is for users and systems to have the minimum set of permissions necessary to perform their specific job functions and nothing more. By following this principle of least privilege, we can dramatically reduce the attack surface by limiting the potential damage from a compromised account, insider threat, or accidental misuse. IAM has the necessary tools to help you along your least privilege journey. This wasn't always the case. In the early days of IAM, the only way to get the permissions you wanted was to configure them up front. But we quickly realized that getting these permissions right, it's a journey, it's not an upfront thing. It's almost impossible to know exactly what level of permissions are needed up front. And for most enterprises, what you need and your tolerance for risk, those change over time too. So today, you can start with a broader set of permissions and then use our tools to help you set, verify, and refine them. One of these tools is IAM Access Analyzer. Access Analyzer proactively scans resource policies before access is even attempted by an external account or user, flagging potential unintended exposure. And it also identifies IAM roles, users, and permissions that haven't been used recently, which helps you remove unnecessary access. Finally, it can automatically create IAM policies based on what services and actions were actually used according to CloudTrail logs. But we knew we could do even more. So today, I'm excited to announce the general availability of internal access findings, a new IAM Access Analyzer capability. This is pretty cool. Powered by automated reasoning, you can use internal access findings to see exactly who in your company has access to important AWS resources, like an S3 bucket with PCI data. We do the hard work of analyzing the various policy types, identity, resource, service control policies, and then identify which IAM roles and users have access to that specific resource. With all of your access information now in one simple dashboard, you can monitor both internal and external access in one view, making it much easier to spot and fix security issues. And finally, the system automatically checks access permissions every day, and it can notify you when someone new gets access to something critical. IAM Access Analyzer now provides a holistic view of all access granted to your critical assets, giving you the foundation you need for your resources. While the principle of least privilege is important, the next thing we should address is the need to eliminate long-term credentials. Long-term creds create a persistent security risk, and the longer they remain valid, the longer threat actors have to discover and exploit them. Credential rotation is one way to limit exposure, and in the short term, you should for sure audit and inventory all the creds currently in use across your organization and rotate them. But in the long run, you should replace these credentials by leveraging the right IAM services to provide temporary least privileged access to the necessary resources. Let's look at a recent example where a threat actor was successful using long-term creds to really set the context here. Using leaked or stolen long-term credentials, they used an encryption method known as server-side encryption using client-provided keys to re-encrypt objects with a new encryption key. This replaced the customer's original object, so customers could no longer decrypt data with their own keys. Now, SSEC is a really useful feature for enterprises, so it's difficult to differentiate valid versus unauthorized operations there. But at AWS, we put our active defense tools to work in an effort to help impacted customers. In fact, in the 4 months between December 9th, 2024 to April 30th of this year, AWS prevented 943.6 million attempts to perform unauthorized encryption of customer S3 objects. That's almost 1 billion attacks thwarted. We love helping our customers, but if you move away from using fixed long-term creds, this gets even simpler. Temporary credentials have a limited lifespan that you control. Once those credentials expire, they can't be reused. IAM and IAM Identity Center come with comprehensive identity and access management capabilities to help you move away from long-term credentials. For example, you can use IAM instance profiles for your compute, where you just define necessary permissions and we do everything else. With Identity Federation, your users get seamless sign-on. And I should absolutely mention IAM roles, which have been transformational for security, because they provide temporary credentials that don't need to be rotated. And for hybrid and multi-cloud workloads, you can use IAM roles anywhere to seamlessly authenticate and access your AWS resources. We are continually looking for more ways to make it easier for you to raise the security bar. In addition to credentials with long lifetimes, those with elevated permissions can increase your risk. So at last year's reInvent, we announced new features to help you eliminate the use of overprivileged root credentials and provision secure by default member accounts. With the centrally managed root access and root session features in IAM, you can remove unnecessary root credentials and issue temporary elevated permissions to manage your AWS account just when it's needed. And for those scenarios that you still need an IAM user or root user in your account, you should always enforce multi-factor authentication. MFA is the single best security practice you can implement to protect your accounts from unauthorized access, period. We were the first cloud provider to mandate the use of MFA for management and standalone accounts with root access. We've also made it easier for customers to use strong MFA by launching support for FIDO2 passkeys. And I should mention that we support up to 8 MFA devices per root or IAM user to help customers avoid problem with lost tokens. To further support the CISA Secure by Design pledge, this March, we expanded our policy to enforce MFA for member account root users, those non-management accounts within an organization. And with this step, I'm so happy to say that we now have 100% MFA enforcement for root users across all types of AWS accounts. Yeah, that's worth applause. While identity and access management controls who can access your resources, securing the data itself requires additional layers of protection and control. In a world with ever-changing dynamics and rapidly evolving policies, control over where data is located has become even more important. And at the same time, data fuels innovation. We believe you shouldn't have to choose between digital sovereignty and innovation. Sovereignty has been a priority for AWS since the very beginning, when we were the only leading cloud provider to allow customers to control the location and movement of their data. We are committed to continue offering all AWS customers the most advanced set of sovereignty controls and features available in the cloud. This includes providing control over the location of your data, verifiable control over who can access your data, sovereign and resilient options that allow you to sustain operations through disruption or disconnection, and the ability to encrypt everything, everywhere. Encryption used to be time-consuming and expensive, which often meant that it would only be used for your most sensitive data. On AWS, encryption is essentially free, both in cost and in engineering effort, which is sometimes as important. enabling you to encrypt everything everywhere. And defense in depth is important here. Information's particularly vulnerable to interception and theft when moving across networks, whether that's between internal systems or over the internet to an external destination. If we think about the OSI layer model, which is a great abstraction for the protocols and layers that must interoperate to power the network, you can see how AWS has your back and simplifies holding a stronger security bar. About 20 years ago, it became increasingly common to encrypt traffic over protocols like SSL and TLS, which is great. This inserts a new kind of invisible transport encryption layer. At AWS, we take our customer promises very seriously, and so we're unwilling to rely on a single layer of protection. We want to give our customers confidence that they are protected, even if there's an issue within one system. If you were to look at real traffic in the AWS network, you would see that we have a layer that pervasively encrypts the physical network link. And traffic in our VPC is transparently encrypted with packets wrapped in an AWS-specific header. It isn't unusual for customer traffic to be encrypted 3 or even more times when it's moving through the network, something we are able to do at scale while delivering extremely high network performance. This is simple, increased protection for you and your data. Now let's zoom to that transport layer and talk about digital certificates. I'm a math nerd, so this is my favorite part. We know that management of digital certificates is a challenge, from maintaining visibility and control across diverse environments to managing life cycles, renewals, key storage, compliance requirements. All of that becomes even more difficult to manage at scale. AWS Certificate Manager simplifies the process of provisioning, managing, and deploying public certs. Since launching in 2016, ACM has helped organizations around the globe eliminate the time-consuming process of managing TLS certificates. I wish it were around earlier in my career. It's fabulous. For example, if you're securing communication to a web application, you can request a public certificate from ACM and associate it with an application load balancer that's managing traffic to your application servers that are running on EC2. You can do the same for the CloudFront distribution that's hosting your content at an edge location. But you can't use ACM public certificates to connect to an on-premise resource or a third-party service until now. I am thrilled to share that starting today, you can export ACM-issued public certs and their private keys for use inside and outside of AWS. I know. When you request a public certificate through ACM, you now have the option to designate it as exportable. And once that certificate is issued, you can export and download the certificate, private key, and certificate chain to use it wherever you want. You get the value of central certificate management, managed renewals, automation, automatic rotation notifications, all at a lower price than other commercial certificate authorities. It's simple. While protecting data as it moves between points is crucial, it's also important to safeguard information and applications from cyber threats. So let's talk about network protection. For years, AWS Shield has been your trusted defense against DDoS events, automatically defending your applications from threats that could impact your availability. But between a rapidly evolving landscape and your own growth and scale, we know that identifying resources, connections, and configurations that require protection can be time-consuming and complicated. Moreover, having to rely on multiple tools to analyze and determine the priority of security issues can be operationally intensive, and you need confidence that your protection keeps pace with all of these changes. Today, I'm excited to share that we're expanding the capabilities of AWS Shield with the preview of Network Security Director. This provides protection that spans from DDoS defense to comprehensive network security management. With this update, you can more easily identify network security configuration issues. Network Security Director starts by performing an analysis of your network, building a topology based on the resources, connections, network security services, and rule sets that have been implemented. It then assesses the network security configuration of your resources and whether they meet AWS network security best practices. So instead of wading through alerts to determine which issues to tackle first, we aggregate the findings by severity with instructions for enabling, the recommended services, or rule sets. It's kind of like having a team of AWS security experts monitoring your network architecture and giving you the bottom line, simply. When Shield defends against large-scale events that are trying to overwhelm your infrastructure, AWS Web Application Firewall simultaneously blocks attempts to exploit your applications. WAF allows you to create precise security rules that filter out malicious traffic. You can block common events like SQL injection attempts or cross-site scripting, prevent access from specific geographic locations, or stop suspicious patterns. However, configuring web application security can be time-consuming. It's a process that involves multiple console pages and complex rule selection. And again, we think you shouldn't have to choose between comprehensive protection and ease of use, which is why I'm excited to introduce a simplified console experience for AWS WAF, which transforms the web application and API security setup process into one onboarding wizard. This is a fundamental reimagining of how organizations manage application security. It reduces the steps required to configure initial application security by 80%. And this enables security teams to protect their applications in minutes instead of hours. We're introducing workload-specific rule packs that provide pre-configured protection for common workload types, whether that's APIs or PHP applications, making it easier to get started with foundational protection. These expert-curated rule packs incorporate our years of experience and will be continuously updated to address new threats. Through a new unified dashboard, you can access consolidated security metrics. Here, you can tune existing rules by monitoring for false positives or respond to potential threats, all from within this dashboard. Security controls like rate limiting, geographic restrictions, and IP reputation filtering can also be customized within the dashboard. But we know it isn't always the security team setting up the web application firewall. For example, if you're a developer wanting to leverage CloudFront for content delivery, you have to configure the CloudFront distribution, manage DNS settings in Route 53, configure appropriate security controls in WAF, and associate a TLS certificate through ACM. You might not be an expert in many of those tasks. We wanted to make this process easier to allow developers to take ownership of that security bar. I'm excited to introduce a simplified onboarding experience for Amazon CloudFront, enabling developers to achieve fast, secure content delivery without requiring deep technical expertise. The CloudFront console provides an intelligent, centralized experience that streamlines service configuration and management. In addition to managing CDN settings, you can now manage settings for WAF, Route 53, and Certificate Manager from within the CloudFront console. This approach allows developers, regardless of their prior experience, to more easily configure a comprehensive solution that delivers content quickly, securely, and reliably to their users. Even with the levels of protection that we've discussed, it can still be difficult to defend against emerging threats. The world is changing pretty quickly. Customers are facing an increase in active threat types that are difficult to independently detect and defend against. At AWS, we actively participate in the defense of you, our customers, in ways you might not realize. For example, if I bring you behind the scenes a little bit, sitting at the edge of our network is an internal network mapping device called Blackfoot. One of the things I've loved about the past couple of weeks is learning some of the stories behind the names. So if I can divert us for a second, the Blackfoot code name is actually a nod to the Linux mascot, Tux the penguin, and the black-footed penguins that are local to Cape Town, South Africa, where EC2 was developed. Isn't that cool? When any packet comes into the AWS network, Blackfoot translates the outside IP address to the inside IP address. And this happens for all traffic going in and out of every VPC all day, every day. To give you an idea of the scale that means, Blackfoot handles translating over 13 trillion flows per hour. You never get used to the big numbers here. I'll just say it now. We've also used EC2 to build an internal service that we call MadPot. MadPot is a collection of EC2 instances with high interaction honeypots. These honeypots advertise different services while pretending to be vulnerable versions of those services, and the goal is to attract bad actors. At any given time, we have tens of thousands of madpots running in our global network, and they're constantly shifting through our IP space. So while madpot gives us intel to identify the bad actors, Blackfoot gives us the data plane to stop their activities. Using Blackfoot and madpot, we've implemented custom packet processing at a massive scale. We can detect bad actors scanning for vulnerabilities and place their IPs in a drop table so that any packet they send never even sees your VPC. This protection is available in every internet-connected region and provides protection for every AWS customer at no cost to you. It's reduced the number of vulnerability probing attempts by more than 75%, preventing 2.4 trillion malicious scanning requests over the last 6 months alone. We also measure the list of mitigated IP addresses every 3 minutes. And on average, 12.5% of those IPs mitigated by Blackfoot change in that 3-minute window. This means the time value of threat intelligence is incredibly short. A daily or even hourly feed, too slow. That's why we are also building active defense measures into our services. I'm happy to introduce AWS Network Firewall enhanced with active threat defense, offering protection against emerging and actively exploited threats. It leverages threat intelligence gained from the AWS global infrastructure to rapidly identify threats and then automatically applies AWS-managed rules to block evasive command and control channels, malicious URLs, and other exploits. AWS Network Firewall with active threat defense strengthens your security without any additional complexity or operational overhead. To help simplify security at scale, we've integrated protection mechanisms into AWS services so that you don't have to implement them piece by piece. This comprehensive approach helps you scale with confidence. I'd like to invite Nooper Davis, Global CISO at Comcast, to share how Comcast has been able to improve their security posture with AWS. Nooper, over to you.
Thank you, Amy. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Philly. Philly happens to be the headquarters of Comcast. And as you can see, Comcast is big. And a question you may ask is, how do you secure a business of this scale, this complexity, and this diversity of businesses? And we think that it is really important to have a well-defined mission. The mission for Comcast Cybersecurity is we protect the incredible technology and platforms that connect millions of people to the moments that matter. This is a really purposeful mission for our 2,000-plus cybersecurity professionals. This group of people is not just mission-driven, they're extremely innovative. Last year, more than 10% of all patents granted at Comcast were granted to the Comcast cybersecurity team. I am so proud of that. Thank you. That's applause for my team, yay. So we also take a very long-term view of security. And for that, we have defined 3 North Stars. Our first North Star is build security and privacy into all of our products and services. This is what Amy just talked about when she referred to secure by design. It's also known as shift left. Our second North Star is that we use data to make sure that we are improving the security effectiveness of our solutions. And our third North Star is that we operate on zero trust principles. Now, these have been our North Stars for 7 years. We really do take a long-term view of security. And sometimes we make revolutionary progress, but usually it's evolutionary, slow, steady progress along those 3 North Stars. Now, I know you've been waiting for this slide. You can't do a presentation these days without the word AI. So as you all know, in 2023, generative AI became part of our collective consciousness. And people at Comcast, including the cyber team, were so excited. Oh my, new ways of doing things, new tools and methods to take advantage of. So we started thinking, okay, how does cyber adapt to this? And I will talk about this in our framework of our 3 North Stars. So we were already doing things like threat modeling, pen testing. We were finding and fixing code vulnerabilities. We started to now adapt these processes. We looked at the OWASP LLM Top 10. We looked at the MITRE Atlas guidelines. We did our own research. We learned from our peers. And so today, threat models now incorporate things like, do we know the provenance of not just the training data, but the model? For prompts, do we have things like guardrails? Are we looking for hallucinations? Are we doing input validation? Are we looking for data exfiltration? And we've learned a tremendous amount. What is surprising to me is that in less than 2 years, 1 out of every 5, so that's 20% of threat model and pen testing findings at Comcast today result from our developers building AI solutions. That's an amazing transformation in less than 2 years. Now, as we're doing this, our CTO's office is building tools and platforms for our development teams. So we are creating an AI benchmark. Sorry, I've lost the word for a minute. AI workbench. Sorry about that. And also maturing our AI software development lifecycle. So an example of that is that we've built a tool where you can do a prompt or a natural language input, and the outcome is user stories for our development teams. Well, part of that process now includes generation of security user stories. So that is how we're integrating. Now, we're also using AI to improve some of these processes. For example, for threat models, we used to require an architectural diagram of some type. Today, we've built tooling that goes directly onto developer wikis or developer documentation, and it extracts all of the relevant information, summarizes it, and now you can do threat models much faster than before. Same for pen tests. Pen tests take a lot of preparation, and then a QA, and then the reporting. All of that is ripe for Gen AI, leaving pen testers to do what they like to do best, which is to pen test. On the second North Star, we really got lucky, because when Gen AI burst onto the scene, we already had a very mature security data lake. We had 10 petabytes of data, 2 years of history, about 100 data sources, already normalized, already correlated. And as we started to look at what Gen AI was bringing to the table, it was like party time. Everybody was so excited about the new capabilities that our data was about to unleash. So today, our network reliability engineering team uses our data, the security data. Our asset management team uses our data to identify likely owners of assets without owners. We also have a chatbot that reaches out to the owner and makes sure they claim ownership. Remember that 100 data sources I just talked about? Well, maintaining those data pipelines was becoming tremendously resource intensive. So we have developed a 6-stage Gen AI pipeline that does everything from look at the content and shape of the data coming in, to generating the code that generates the schemas and then populates the schemas. So that entire process is now automated, freeing up a ton of resources. And I can't leave this slide without talking about GRC, governance, risk, and compliance. We are finding that this is the most ripest ground for use of Gen AI. So we have so many bots there today already. We have an AI bot that talks to our continuous controls compliance system. We have bots that look at SOC 2 attestations. We have bots that generate, fill out vendor questionnaires. It's just really almost every few weeks there's a new use case that emerges. And then finally, if you look at our third North Star, identity and segmentation are cornerstones for Zero Trust. So we have built something we call One Risk Engine that looks at every user authentication at Comcast, and it risk ranks it. And we do this with all of the contextual information that we have about our company, our people, and our infrastructure. And again, for microsegmentation, we really, really rely on things like AWS security groups. We have built our own microsegmentation platform, and AI is really helping there as well. Because one of the big issues with microsegmentation is to figure out who your tenants are talking to and who is talking to your tenants. That's where AI really helps us. Now, all of this is really great, having North Stars and a mission and an awesome team, but we also need governance and controls. And for that, we have continuous controls monitoring. We really focus on security hygiene, that grunt work that nobody wants to do, but is really important for security. We focus on operational excellence. And then finally, our strategic partnerships are so important to us. And this is where our 6-year-old partnership with AWS is so, so valuable. These are just some of the AWS capabilities that my cyber team uses at Comcast. So thank you, AWS. And with that, I'm going to close thanking you, wishing you a wonderful rest of the day and an awesome rest of the conference. Thank you.
Thanks, Nooper. It's amazing to see how Comcast is leveraging AWS to improve their security posture. I would like to move from AI and talk about monitoring. Effective monitoring is so critical for security, but it can be challenging to know what to monitor and how to do it effectively. The core challenge is that security monitoring naturally gravitates toward detecting what it's easy to identify, rather than necessarily what's most dangerous. The activities that generate clear, unambiguous alerts tend to get the most attention, while the subtle behavioral anomalies and low and slow attacks that characterize advanced persistent threat might remain undetected. This is the streetlight effect applied to cybersecurity. Just like someone searches for their lost keys under the streetlight because that's where the light is brightest and it's easiest to see them, security teams might focus on the types of malicious activity that are easiest to detect and investigate, not because they represent the greatest threats necessarily, but because they're the most visible under the glow of our existing monitoring capabilities. And we wondered, how could we make this simpler for you? It starts with the fact that since day one, we designed every AWS service as an API. Our APIs are used by every customer to programmatically manage their AWS resources, whether that's spinning up a load balancer, a routing system, or a compute instance. Every API call leaves a trace. To give you some more context, at AWS, every day we inspect over 360 trillion telemetry events on average for signs of reconnaissance, unauthorized access, lateral movement, or other attacker techniques. We've also developed the tools that help you address security and monitoring challenges. You can use Amazon CloudWatch and AWS CloudTrail to get insights into resource security and API usage, while Amazon Security Lake acts as an aggregator that normalizes and combines security data using OCSF to bridge the gaps between tools and accelerate threat detection. We've also built services like GuardDuty that's packed with innovative science and uses proprietary threat intel to help you analyze VPC flow logs and CloudTrail events to identify threats. GuardDuty uses machine learning and AI to help minimize false positives, making it easier to build reliable automations for your security practice. And we continue to invest in enhancing these capabilities to better serve you. For example, in December, we announced the general availability of GuardDuty Extended Threat Detection, which uses AI and machine learning to automatically correlate security signals from across AWS services to detect critical threats. This capability allows for the identification of attack sequences, like credential compromised, followed by data exfiltration, and then it aggregates them into a single critical severity finding for you. This finding includes an incident summary, a detailed events timeline that maps to MITRE attack tactics and techniques, and remediation recommendation. Extended threat detection has been extremely successful. In a 90-day period, GuardDuty Extended Threat Detection identified over 13,000 high-confidence attack sequences among millions of monitored AWS accounts in the US. This translates to an average of less than 2 high-confidence attack sequences per affected account. demonstrating our ability to surface only the most critical security events. When you see this, you do something. Building on December's launch, I'm excited to announce that today we're adding further enhancements to GuardDuty Extended Threat Detection. The new capabilities offer advanced behavioral analytics, improved accuracy with reduced false positives, and new coverage for EKS clusters, combining visibility from network and EKS audit logs, as well as runtime environments. And this enables you to take action on sequences of suspicious activity that indicate a potentially compromised Amazon EKS cluster in your environment. And that could look like a lot of different things. For example, it might be an anomalous deployment of a privileged container, followed by multiple attack techniques like persistence, crypto mining, reverse shell creation, all picked up by GuardDuty's runtime sensor and presented to you as a single finding. These enhancements demonstrate our commitment to providing comprehensive threat detection across your AWS environment, helping your security teams focus on what matters most, which is responding to real threats faster and more effectively. We understand that the sheer volume of information and alert fatigue might cause critical warnings to be ignored, and we want to make it easier for you to decide where to focus your attention. That's why today, I'm also excited to announce the preview of the enhanced AWS Security Hub. Security Hub is a unified cloud security solution that combines signals from across AWS security services and then transforms them into actionable insights, helping you prioritize your critical security issues and respond at scale. The new capabilities in Security Hub bring together the broad and deep security signals from across AWS, correlating and enriching them to surface and prioritize active risks. For example, Security Hub can combine the multi-stage threats detected by GuardDuty Extended Threat Detection with other signals like vulnerabilities and prioritize critical security issues and help you simplify your overall cloud security operations across your entire organization. Let me demonstrate how Security Hub simplifies security at scale. And I'll just note up front that some of the features in this demo will be available in GA. We start in the Security Hub summary dashboard in the organization view that shows trends of active threats, exposures, and resources with vulnerabilities over time. We can switch to the exposures dashboard where all exposures are grouped by title across your organization. In this case, Security Hub found a publicly exposed EC2 instance with a highly exploitable vulnerability and excessive permissions. We can click on the exposure title to expand the details. And here we can see all resources from multiple accounts and regions in our organization that also have this type of exposure. By choosing a specific resource, we get to see all of the information related to this exposure so that we can then investigate further. At the very top, you can look at the description and overview of the finding to better understand what the exposure is for. And then you can review all of the contributing traits for the finding to understand the key items that contributed to the creation of that exposure. And next, we need to review the potential attack path related to the resource that the finding is for. We do have the option here of switching to a full screen view that gives you a little bit better visibility. The attack path helps us better understand how this resource is exposed to the internet and the network components that are involved. And we can now move to the remediation guidance to review the recommendations for addressing the top traits. We can expand the resource view to find all of the assets that are associated with that exposure, and then review the configuration information of the impacted EC2 instance. And this will allow us to identify any information that might be relevant for that remediation. With a full understanding of the scope of the exposure finding, we can streamline the response by opening a ticket directly into Jira so that it can be resolved by the team responsible for the resource in the environment they work in already. And finally, we can navigate to the resources console to do a search for all other EC2 instances that have the same exposure finding. Where else do I have this problem? This is how the enhanced Security Hub helps you detect, prioritize, and respond to critical security issues faster and at scale, because it's about time to act more than time to detect. Through automated correlation, enriched context, actionable insights, and streamlined response, teams can improve productivity and better protect their cloud environment. I've talked about the importance of monitoring and logging and how we're helping you get visibility across your environment. But all the monitoring in the world means nothing if you don't have the right incident response strategy to act upon those findings at speed and scale. Let me give you an example that shows the value of early detection. Last year, a major financial institution detected unusual API calls across their payment processing systems. Their monitoring tools were working perfectly. They saw this anomaly within minutes. But what happened next really shows why incident response and resilience go hand in hand. Because they had practiced IR procedures, they could immediately isolate the affected systems. And thanks to their resilient architecture design, they were able to quickly route transactions through backup processors and maintain customer operations. They turned what could have been a catastrophic outage into a footnote in their daily ops report. Most of their customers never even noticed the incident. Okay, next, I want to talk about how migration and modernization are paths to better security. Migrating to the cloud represents a transformative shift in how organizations manage security, offering a shared responsibility model where AWS does the undifferentiated heavy lifting of securing your underlying infrastructure so that you can focus on securing your resources. In traditional on-prem environments, organizations bear the full burden of security from the physical infrastructure to the software and the data. Customers on AWS automatically inherit our world-class physical security, and our services integrate security directly into their design, enabling protection that's inherent rather than an afterthought. Success hinges on understanding that shared responsibility model, addressing transitional risks, and leveraging cloud-native tools to maximize your security outcomes. One company that significantly enhanced its security capabilities after migrating to AWS is RedShield. RedShield provides a warranted risk reduction management service that helps their customers thoroughly understand, prioritize, and manage security risks according to their business priorities. By leveraging AWS Global Accelerator, the company was able to scale its operation to 80 to 100 data centers, providing distributed presence and increased resiliency, while at the same time reducing their attack surface. The migration to AWS enabled RedShield to successfully mitigate attacks peaking at over 1.3 terabits per second, including handling 25 million DNS requests per second and 1.2 HTTP requests for web app logins per second. RedShield's improved infrastructure on AWS enables them to resolve critical security issues for customers in days instead of months. Migration to the cloud brings substantial security benefits, but the ultimate goal should be modernization. Modernization helps you move your solutions further up the stack and leverage more managed services like Lambda, S3, or KMS, and then benefit from the increased security that comes with them, while at the same time reducing the reliance on manual configuration, which, as many of us in this room know, are prone to human error. The infrastructure for these services is patched and managed by AWS so that you can focus on building instead of maintaining your infrastructure. After all, the best patching is the kind you don't have to do. Regardless of which layer of the stack your service runs on, you still need to perform regular patching. Patching serves a critical role, acting as frontline defense against vulnerabilities that could be used to compromise systems, data, and trust. It's something that should be viewed holistically across all the layers of your stack. In today's fast-paced environments, though, organizations often grapple with operational challenges like the volume of updates, compatibility risks, downtime concerns, visibility gaps, and this could lead to deploying updates less frequently, which then makes, when you do update, a massive undertaking that requires a bunch of cross-team coordination. To address these challenges, organizations really need to foster a mindset where patching is integrated into their broader security and ops practices. Continuous automated delivery via CI/CD pipelines makes this a no big deal. The goal is end-to-end automation from in-house software to infrastructure as code. And with tools like Amazon Q Developer CLI, creating these IAC templates is as easy as one prompt. CI/CD pipelines then test the security and stability of your stack by scanning your software, your infrastructure as code templates, and dependencies for vulnerabilities early in development. And then you also need staged validation by testing changes in pre-prod environments to avoid production surprises. Always test your changes thoroughly and ensure rollback mechanisms exist to mitigate issues without harming your customer experience. But when deployment automation is done right, patching is just part of daily operations. Small changes are flowing out to production on a continuous basis. And then out-of-band emergent patching becomes a separate, distinct action that's scoped to only what you need to address a zero-day vulnerability. AWS provides many tools that make patching easier across the entire technology stack. Beyond OS-level patching through AWS Systems Manager, AWS offers specialized services addressing each layer of the stack. For containerized workloads, Amazon ECR scanning automatically checks container images for vulnerabilities and provides remediation guidance. AWS Code Artifact helps organizations maintain private repositories of vetted, patched dependencies for your development teams, verifying that applications are built with secure components from the start. Finally, Amazon Inspector automatically assesses applications for vulnerabilities and deviations from best practices. And it integrates directly with Security Hub to provide actionable recommendations prioritized by risk level. While migrating to the cloud and modernizing legacy systems unlocks transformative benefits, scalability, resilience, and security, we know that the journey is not straightforward. Organizations often face obstacles like untangling decades of technical debt, retraining teams on cloud-native applications and practices, or re-architecting monolithic apps for distributed environments. These challenges, if they're navigated alone, might slow your progress or inflate your costs or lead to suboptimal outcomes. And this is where trusted partners become invaluable. I'd like to invite to the stage Justin Brindley-Kuntz, VP of Go-to-Market and Specialists, to explain how partners are helping our customers raise their security posture and unlock their full potential. Justin.
When I think about this statement, everything starts with security. I'm reminded that when I started in AWS back in 2006, I really didn't understand what this meant or how hard it was to make a reality. The irony is I had come from a security company, but when I onboarded to AWS, there was just something different here. How could it be that builder teams were distributed around the world, and yet everyone understood the importance of security? Yes, you need top-down prioritization, you need great mechanisms, you need training, you need tools, you need all those things. But you can't confidently say everything starts with security unless it's part of your culture. And at AWS, one of the things that I've gotten to see firsthand is how our culture of security is propped up by this strong community. The more people that talk and engage on security, the more it's amplified as a normal part of your discussions, designs, deployments, operations, support. It's everywhere, instead of an afterthought. And with our security community, we have subject matter experts with deep knowledge across security domains. These folks work alongside service teams, our partners, our customers, to ensure that security is carried through everything that we do and that we're providing the right resources to help you solve the most difficult and complex security challenges. For example, when we started getting questions about how to secure generative AI workloads, a cross-functional team across our community of security experts got together to unpack what we were experiencing ourselves and what we were hearing from our customers. The result was this generative AI security scoping matrix. It simplifies how to focus in and assess and implement security controls across the entire AI lifecycle, no matter your industry or your use case. Let's also, of course, not forget about our partner network. It's a multiplier when it comes to communities of security specialists. These partners have deep and diverse sets of knowledge and experience that I love seeing customers leverage. In particular, I'm really proud of the sheer breadth of our MSSP partner network, available to everyone looking to expand their security community or to help protect or even fully manage their workloads. And I'm excited to announce that we have enhanced our AWS MSSP specialization. For the first time, you can more easily identify partners with proven expertise in the security tools that you use, whether third-party or AWS. We've always had a high bar for these security specializations, but we're now further validating capabilities by looking at customer references and real-world implementations to ensure our partners can successfully navigate the ever-changing realities of the security landscape, including AI and multi-cloud. This is not a simple check-the-box exercise, but partners are showing up, and we're excited to be working with them. Speaking of a changing security landscape, across the entire partner community, we're seeing some fantastic innovations that are transforming security with generative AI, such as Terra Security, an AWS partner that developed an agentic AI platform that enables continuous, semi-autonomous penetration testing that doubles the coverage of attack surfaces, improves accuracy, and cuts test duration by over 50%. Very cool. Or Twine, that developed an AI-powered digital employee trained and educated in identity processes. It understands, learns, takes away the burden of identity management work. It's been shown to reduce manual identity and access management work by up to 70%. What a great example of what our future holds. And that's just a glimpse of what's possible. We have an entire specialization dedicated to AI security, and some of the world's largest partners in the world are right here with us, ready to help you secure your AI environment and protect you against emerging AI threats. All right, the world has changed a lot since I joined AWS, but the culture of security is here, and it's only strengthened over the years and expanded to include a community of partners, all here to help you confidently solve even your most complex security challenges. So when you're here at Reinforce, connect with a specialist, talk to a partner, and simplify your security journey. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Justin. It's great to see how our partners are supporting our customers across all aspects of security. The last thing I want to talk to you about today is how security, when done right, can be a true enabler in adopting new technologies, of course, including generative AI. What we're noticing is that customers with mature security practices and the ability to innovate while maintaining a high security bar, they're adopting Gen AI faster. It's no surprise that large enterprises in finance, healthcare, and telecoms are leveraging Gen AI to build innovative solutions. It's because they already have the right security controls and governance structures, widespread data encryption, strong access management, ubiquitous audit trails. All of this enables them to reduce risks and pragmatically focus on scaling their use cases. These pre-existing controls streamline compliance while lowering barriers to experimentation. For example, insurance companies can accelerate claims processing using generative AI while maintaining explainability and accountability through chains of decisions that align with their transparency mandates. One company that started in the enterprise AI space and has spent years thinking about guardrails and security in the Gen AI space is Writer. They are bringing accurate, reliable AI agents to the Global 2000. Let's roll a video.
I think in 10 years, there are going to be two types of companies, AI-first companies and dead companies. There's no question that the tools that you use every day shape you, and in so many ways, create the container of what you think is possible. Writer is that end-to-end platform for reinventing every process inside of an enterprise AI first. Generative AI really shortens the distance between conception and reality. It is such a different way to work compared to the last decade. So much of what we did was click boxes 800 times a day. We are building agentic systems that are able to process records from multiple databases and create tools that allow an explosion of creativity. You need a powerful model to be able to do that. Our partnership with AWS is such a big part of our ability to be an enterprise-grade agent builder platform. We've trained our models on SageMaker Hyperpod, and it has resulted in seamless scaling from prototype to production. We've got the ability to process 1 million tokens in 22 seconds and call a tool in 0.3 seconds, and that is because of AWS. We work on the technology of yes. Can agentic AI do X? Yes. Can agentic AI do Y? Yes. And we really get to partner with customers thinking about the future of their businesses. This technology is so democratizing. If you can write it, if you can describe it, you can build it. And so much of that exciting future is really right here, right now.
Cool, huh? You can applaud, it's okay. It's good, circulates the blood. At AWS, our teams have been leveraging the same services and industry-leading LLMs that you can access on Bedrock to build tools that enable them to achieve more with less. Generative AI is not a panacea, obviously, but it is extremely proficient at certain tasks, like analyzing text, correlating unstructured information from multiple sources to help us quickly identify and mitigate issues. And these custom tools not only help our teams work more efficiently, they also embed security practices directly into development workflows. To share more about some of these tools and hopefully inspire you to build something better, I'd like to invite on stage George Argyros.
Thank you, Amy. Hello, everyone. I'm very excited to be here today to show you how our teams are able to solve difficult problems and get more efficient using generative AI. Many of you in this room have heard Matt Garman talk publicly at re:Invent about how we shifted the whole company from internal Java 11 to Java 18 using Amazon Q developer Java code transformation. We now use a similar process to resolve security issues in our code bases. The way we do this is by using an internal version of Amazon Q Developer to pull security best practices and help our engineers address problems faster. The application not only helps solve individual security issues, but it also enables our teams to raise the bar by ensuring they use the most secure libraries and design patterns. Instead of having developers step out of their dev lifecycle, we make it part of their development process, shifting security left, squashing problems early in the process. The application performs security checks during pull requests, and if it identifies an issue, it generates a code review and a patch. Let's see it in action. Code reviews for security issues can be initiated in two ways. A code review can be triggered automatically when a security finding is identified during a pull request. However, we can also use a CLI to initiate ad hoc code reviews for a specific code package. And, although not visible here, we also have tools to generate these commands automatically and at scale on behalf of our builders. The code analysis completes within a few seconds and generates a full report of the findings. I can now click on the URL provided by the tool, so I can review issues identified, along with the mitigation recommendations. The code review description provides all the information about the issues identified, as well as the code fixes that applied and the next steps for our builders. This is crucial, as it provides the necessary context for when we switch to the code diff view next. In the file diff for code diff view, we can see the before and after code, with all the fixes suggested by the tool. All this has happened outside of our code repository. The existing code is still unpatched, and we can quickly jump to the original file to review the contents. We can also jump to the newly created branch with the patch code. After reviewing the automated fix and making sure that it addresses all the issues correctly, we can automatically merge the patch with just one click. And just like that, our security patch has been merged to our source control, and it's ready to be tested and deployed to production. Jumping back to the main branch in our source control, we can see that the latest merge is ours. And just like that, the code is fully patched. As you can see, this can significantly improve how quickly we identify and fix security issues in new code. But both performance and accuracy are critical. The system uses a number of safeguards to ensure that we're not wasting engineers' time by producing invalid fixes or breaking code. For example, we use AI agents to run tests on the generated code fixes and automatically fix issues based on the generated errors. The agents also evaluate that the patch is accurate. Our goal for 2025 is to deliver a 5% improvement on builder efficiency through automated fix generation. And this is only the beginning. Another internal challenge that GenAI is helping us solve is scaling the AppSec review process. At AWS, security is our top priority. So every new feature and service has to go through an AppSec review to ensure that it meets our high security standards. However, AppSec reviews take resources and time and need to be prioritized accordingly. In addition, builders may have security blockers that requires input from the security team. So we built a security-focused GenAI chatbot to give developers guidance throughout the development process and reduce issues before the security review. The LLM that powers this chatbot uses an agent to provide advice and answer questions, in effect, speeding up the whole process and freeing up engineers' time to tackle harder problems, those not easily solved by LLMs. Now, as Amy mentioned earlier, AWS is built on APIs. Therefore, it is imperative that we thoroughly and exhaustively test all our APIs. However, writing effective tests that can methodically test for every scenario, including edge cases, is a tedious and time-consuming task. You need to read the documentation, figure out the limits and use cases needed to be tested, and set up the necessary context, along with the appropriate parameters that will be sent as part of the test call. Now, imagine doing this for hundreds or thousands of tests. Instead, we've built an agentic workflow that can digest the documentation along with the structural information of the APIs, build test cases automatically, and refine those tests until they run successfully. LLMs also help speed up the test cycle by identifying the external resources needed to run the tests, like an S3 bucket, for example. Today, we automatically generate security tests for a large portion of the AWS service APIs. Recently, we've been extending this approach even further. We are using LLMs not only to generate the necessary context and parameters for calling an API, but also to understand which security properties need to be tested for each API, and verify that the test completed successfully. AI agents using public AWS documentation can understand how to best invoke APIs, their expected behavior, and whether an API executed successfully. The agents will try as a test and use the results to fix any inaccuracies in the test itself. This approach not only helps us develop comprehensive security test cases, but to also understand and improve the quality of our documentation that thousands of builders use daily. I really hope that what we've achieved will inspire you to build your own tools. Thank you.
Thanks, George. It's cool to see the innovation and tools that our teams are building, huh? Another internal team that has seen transformational changes from using generative AI is our cloud response team. When security issues arise, every second, every minute counts. And by integrating GenAI into our case management system, we've achieved over a 40% reduction in mean time to resolve for average complexity issues, while simultaneously improving the depth and consistency of our security documentation. Our AI-powered structured triage system now automatically answers more than 50 key questions per security case and suggests questions to go even deeper, enabling faster, more thorough documentation while at the same time helping with consistent prioritization and response. We've also built systems that are able to search our past cases at scale, offering a capability to analyze patterns of issues that helps us zoom out and identify where we can engage for the highest return on our investment. And on the flip side, to avoid potential over-reliance on AI assistance, we've developed drift detection systems that analyze our issues and flag when our response or documentation needs enhancement. For anyone that has had to deal with security log analysis, you know it's one of the most time-consuming aspects of security operations. Our teams previously spent an average of 9.5 hours per log analysis job. It's brutal. Our new AI-powered log analysis system automatically processes logs from multiple sources, transforming what was once a manual, time-intensive process into an automated first-pass analysis that completes in minutes rather than hours. This system employs an entity-driven approach that automatically extracts and analyzes relevant logs, identifies suspicious patterns, maps communication flows, and provides security engineers with a comprehensive starting point for their investigations. The impact of this has been dramatic, a 50 times productivity increase in log analysis capabilities and a reduction in initial analysis time from hours to minutes. It's helping our security engineers get to the part they need to start with simply and quickly. Now, if you're feeling inspired by all this and you want to build similar tools for your business, good news, we recently published the AWS Well-Architected Generative AI Lens. This provides all of the best practices for designing and operating GenAI workloads on AWS. At AWS, we are always looking for meaningful ways to use generative AI to improve the way you work. And we want to make sure that integrating GenAI into your solutions can be done securely and responsibly. With Amazon Bedrock, we provide you with the best model choice and enable you to find the right tool for the right job. Last year, we talked about how security is deeply integrated into everything here at AWS, including Bedrock. From the infrastructure all the way to the tools and features that enable you to build your GenAI solutions. With the model landscape continuously evolving and new models being in high demand, we want our customers to be able to use their preferred models with the same confidence as using any other AWS service. Using newer, more powerful models could provide a competitive edge for many of our customers. And so early availability is paramount. We thoroughly test third-party models to make sure they meet our high security bar before offering them to our customers through Bedrock. And this process, I'm going to be honest, used to take us weeks. We knew this wasn't aligned to your expectations of us. You want access to the latest models as soon as possible. The way we fixed this was by creating a standardized deployment architecture that automated most of the infrastructure and model security tests, and then building a tool to run these at scale. This significantly reduced the manual effort we needed, and it allows us to safely get models into your hands faster. Now our customers can leverage Bedrock and choose from state-of-the-art LLMs to build new tools and capabilities. For example, BMW has built a system on top of Bedrock to continuously optimize their cloud resources and scale their own operations. The BMW Group manages over 23 million vehicles connected to its connected vehicle backend, which is hosted on AWS. And this generates approximately 17 billion requests and 197 terabytes of data per day using over 1,000 microservices. Operating at that scale, they wanted to build a GenAI solution that can help their engineers manage their infrastructure more efficiently. And so BMW has built the In-Console Cloud Assistant, ICCA, on Amazon Bedrock to continuously optimize their cloud infrastructure and scale their operations across more than 1,300 cloud accounts. The tool analyzes the resources and not only comes up with recommendations, but it also provides the ability to deploy the appropriate fixes with the push of a button. And this helps their engineers efficiently manage their infrastructure. This is only one example of how the BMW Group is undergoing enterprise-grade AI transformation using generative AI across their whole value chain to continuously optimize their workflows and products. Generative AI is reshaping what's possible. It's redefining how we write code, create, and serve customers. But adopting technologies like GenAI at scale doesn't just require compute power or data models. It requires a secure foundation. The 4 areas that we covered today within security, identity and access management, data and network security, monitoring and incident response, and migration and modernization, these are not barriers for you. They are enablers. And AWS is making it easier for you to meet your security goals with built-in services, prescriptive guidance, and partner support. When you have a secure foundation, your teams can experiment, build, and ship with confidence. That's the real takeaway. A secure foundation doesn't slow you down, it speeds you up. It removes friction, it gives the teams confidence to adopt, experiment, and innovate faster because guardrails are already in place. That's why security isn't just a priority, it's really a prerequisite for innovation. It's not the end goal. Security is what gets you to your goals, faster, safer, and with more impact. Thanks for spending time with me this morning, folks. I hope you have a fantastic show. Welcome to Reinforce.